people were like, "Ugh, like that's weird. I don't know. That hair looks stupid." And then they actually showed her off properly for the first time, and everyone's like, "Oh no, she's the coolest." And every single bit of lore drop since then with her, everyone is like, "Oh no, she's cool."
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome on into Behind the Voice. I'm joined by someone who I wanted to talk to for so long, Allegra Clark, and I'm just so
Hi.
happy that she replied to my tweet saying that yes, we can do
Yes.
this, and I'm like blown
Heck
away.
yeah.
I couldn't sleep that night. I was like, oh my god, that was an achievement.
And
So
then I like made you wait for the longest time in terms of like me not replying to messages because I am sincerely the worst.
yeah, after that moment, I was like, oh, okay, this is not happening. Then I'm just kidding. No, you.
No.
No, I know you have like a lot of things to do. You have like schedules, you have sessions and stuff. So
like right after I was like, yeah, let's do it, the Persona news dropped, so my Twitter just got insane.
yeah.
And then I was like, sorry I ghosted you for like a week. My Twitter was a minefield, so I've just been kind of chilling, staying away from the internet.
Oh man, just talking about Twitter and internet, that is something that's weird right now.
I know. I'm glad I'm not getting the weird "you can't look at tweets anymore" thing right now.
Oh
So,
my god, yes. I thought it was my problem. I thought like, oh my god, did my internet die or something? What happening? And then it's like
no.
it was trending. I was like, okay, I see what it's.
Yeah, fortunately, I think I'm a late enough time zone in the scheme of things
yeah.
that like I found out, like by the time I found out, like I hadn't been on Twitter yet. I was just seeing people go like, "Oh, well, Twitter's broken forever," and I'm like, "What's that?" Oh, uh-oh.
Okay. Everybody was like everybody was at the same time was like, okay, so here's my other accounts, and people started to go and get new accounts. I'm like, oh, this is it again.
Right.
Twitter's
I was
dying.
like, oh my God, do I have to use Instagram now? Like, do I have to actually use my Instagram?
What
Please,
is
no.
that?
I just want a shit post without making it a picture. Please, I beg of
Yeah,
you.
you have to post a picture. I'm like, what should I click? Like, I don't want to click anything. I want to take any
I
pictures.
know.
Like, oh, it's better to write some
Same,
text.
same.
Like, it's so easy.
I'm a lot more introverted and shy than people think. So I'm just like, oh man, I don't wanna take a picture of myself. I take like 700 pictures and I'm like, I hate all of them. Not
yeah,
doing it.
yeah,
Bye.
yeah. But
Don't
this is
wanna.
you will not see this picture because I'm also gonna delete it from my phone. Like it's just like crazy from me at least.
Yeah.
I'm in the same zone as you. I'm very introverted,
Mhm.
so it's gonna be very hard for me to sometimes like even talk to someone who is brand new. I'm like, and
Yeah.
they believe like, oh, he's the silent one. I'm like, yeah, I'm the silent one. If you could
You're
talk
just
to
like,
me
yeah.
for an hour, I'll be not the silent one. But initially I will be.
I'm like, I think it's an ambivert is the term,
I guess
where
so.
I love being around people. It's so much fun. And then I go like, ew, I'm just going to stare at my phone now. I don't want to talk to anyone. Like, I have peopled out. Oh, my energy's back. Yay. It's great. It's like I go through little waves and cycles.
This is so fun.
Mm.
But like this year, it's my god, I cannot believe it's already halfway. We're halfway through 2023. I'm like,
Oh,
wow, this
don't.
is somebody
No, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about
somebody
it.
told me. I'm like, thank you. Why did you? But like, how has this year
And
been so
and
far
now you
now?
pass that gift along to me, the knowledge that we're halfway through the year. How
I
could
had
you? How could you?
to.
Uh, it's been good. I've been busy, which is always positive. I like being busy. Um, so yeah, no, it's been good. I did start the year on an awful note though, which was that I got COVID
Oh,
right in December when I was home in New York visiting my family, and then tested positive the day after Christmas.
oof.
So I had to push my flight back um, like 5 days to like wait out the hey, you can't travel, you have to be
Yeah.
completely isolated. And then, okay, you shouldn't be contagious anymore. So I just like double masked, went on the plane, but my flight got delayed like really badly. So I got into LAX at like after midnight, and it was now the first. So I literally celebrated New Year's kind of in the air. Like,
Oh my god.
we did the New York countdown, and then I just became vaguely aware of like, I think I'm flying over New Year's here now. Cool, yay. Landed at 1 a.m. They didn't, for whatever reason, we couldn't deplane for another 30 to 45 minutes. So by the time I finally, like, my boyfriend picked me up and I was in his car, it was 2:00 in the morning.
Oh man.
Got home. It was basically 2:30 in the morning, and my cat was like, "Where the hell were you?" It was the longest I'd been away from him. I was miserable. Man. I was exhausted, and he kept waking me up for pets. And I was like, no, stop it. I want to sleep. Milo, come on. By the way, if he jumps up and interrupts us, that's just a feature.
That's
not a bug, it's a feature. That's what we get. He likes, when I sit in this chair, he likes to my lap. Oh my God, where'd I go? Here we go. He likes to go up onto my lap and demanding pets. So, you know.
I can understand.
But yeah, so that's how I started my year, like feeling terrible. Fortunately, it wasn't a serious case. I just had a nasty cold. But I think it was, other than getting the shots and dealing with the, like, you know, the kind of the mild fever that you get after getting a COVID vaccine, I hadn't been sick since like before everything. So it was like, so this is what it's like. This is what it's like to be sick. I hadn't been sick in 3 years, over 3 years at that point. So I was like, oh, well, I didn't miss this. Didn't miss it.
Oh man, nobody likes being sick. But yeah, it's just such an interesting start for you, to be honest. That has been great. But you know, you used to mention that you were watching like movies and stuff. It was like, what was it? Has there been like a movie that for this year that you watched that has blown your minds? Like, oh my God, this is great.
I mean, I watched it last year, but Glass Onion was phenomenal. Also, Puss in Boots.
Oh,
the last one. That was so. No, I was like, I walked out of that theater like, it didn't have to hit that hard. Like, it didn't have to be, you know, like there's an extent to which like you there's a movie and it's like more intended, like you're like, it's intended for kids. So like you obviously want it to be good, but it doesn't have to be the greatest piece of art. That was art to me. I haven't seen Spider-Verse yet. So, you know, I know that's another contender, certainly. But Puss in Boots, like, really surprised me. Really surprised me with how deep and beautiful and gorgeously animated it was. I was like, start to finish, I was having a great time with it.
Yeah, Puss in Boots, like, I did not expect it to be that. I was like, well, okay, this is something that I was not expecting. So yeah, I was blown away by that too. It's such a
just like the positive representation of a panic attack. I was just like, oh my God, I was watching it and going like, yeah, I've been there. I've been there. I know exactly what that looks and feels like. So just seeing that represented on screen was just like fascinating. Again,
crazy.
Beautifully animated.
Oh yeah.
Sobbing. Just absolutely sobbing during it. I'm like, oh, I cry in movies.
Me too.
Easily.
I'm the one I'm the one with like dramatic. If there's some dramatic scenes and some dialogues that just like it's there to really, you know, make you cry, I'll just like, it takes me this much. I'm like just done. I'm like, I remember like, what was that movie? I don't know which movie it was. I think it was some Marvel movie. And I remember like it was a very simple scene. Nobody was crying, but I had like tears. And like my friend sitting beside me, like, what happened? Like, did somebody call you? I'm like, no, it was the scene.
He's like, no, this is just a sad scene in the movie.
It's just like
it's a helpful thing for me, like how like quickly I can like tune into emotions and things like that. Because I find especially like when I'm performing and it's sad, it's really easy for me to get swept into it. So it's, you know, if my character is crying in something, chances are I actually am, because I'm a little crybaby. I'm a little crybaby. That's me.
That's me. It's just be high-fiving at this time. Like, that's me too. Oh man. But you know, voice acting, as when you have done so many games, you've done so many good stuff. What do you like after all these years? What is it like for you to be a voice actor? Like at this point, like what do you feel?
I don't know. It's the coolest thing on the planet. Like, I just feel very lucky that my job is, as I love referring to it, is I just go into padded rooms and I scream at myself. I just like go talk in padded rooms and it's very cathartic. but I always wanted to. I don't want to say I always wanted to act. I wanted to be an astrophysicist first.
Oh wow.
Look where I am now. And then I got so bit by the acting bug and was like, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. Oh, I think Milo's coming up right now. Are you gonna come hang out? Do you want to come hang out? Yay!
Oh yes.
Hi, baby. No. Now you're here. Now you have to stay.
She's like,
Yeah,
no.
No, you're here. You have to hang out now.
Time.
But no, it's like performing and telling stories and making art is just something that I love doing. So the fact that this is actually my job and I sustain myself on it is so fulfilling. I feel like I get creatively fulfilled, but also I can live a life. I can live very comfortably. So that ultimately is. I feel like I've hit the jackpot in a way.
That's awesome.
Yes. Oh,
so cool.
Milo.
Pets are something that I always wanted to be like. I like cats. I like dogs more, but it's like I live in an apartment and it's super hard to feel like keep pets and stuff, and especially my mom and dad be like, pets. Nobody likes to. I don't like pets and all that stuff, so it's super hard to even keep that.
Milo. When the pandemic started, I was just like, I can't do this alone. I am not doing this alone.
Yeah.
And fortunately, my singing teacher had a friend who had found a cat who gave birth to a litter. And the litter had been born in August, but there was still one kitten left.
Wow.
Then that's him. I'm talking about yourself. He's a very chatty boy.
Uh-huh.
I think what's really funny is sometimes when he meows, okay, bye. He does a double meow, and I realize I think he's imitating me going my because his name is Milo or Milo my, and he goes so I think he goes and someone was like, oh, he's saying mama. I'm like, no, he's saying my. He's saying my. He's imitating his own name.
Oh my God.
And then also sometimes he does like a really long extended one, which I think is him imitating when I had to do all my singing lessons via FaceTime.
Oh man. That's so
funny. So he's a little card. He's a little mischief maker. I love him.
Oh man. But like it's crazy to know, amazing to know that you have done so much, and it's so fun for you to be like voice acting, like playing these characters, but going back all the way, like when you were a kid, how was that like your life from then till the point where you decided to let's try voice acting? Like what was that like? What was that kind of arc like for you?
I have such a journey with it. So my dad used to make commercials in New York.
Wow.
So I actually grew up doing commercials, and I did do a couple of voiceover things as well. But I was like a little, like I never like went out and did auditions or anything like that. My dad would just be like, I have to do a commercial. I need a kid for the commercial. So Allegra, and I'd get out of school for a day to go be on set. And what was great was my parents would just take that money and put it in a bank account. So, I was building up a little savings of, things that they were then investing and it accrued. And so that was great. But yeah, so I kind of grew up. I was always a little bit of a performer, and I was convinced I was going to be a scientist. And then, because I love thinking about the fact that there's an alternate universe Allegra who just like didn't actually decide to go for it and was like, okay, science is great, and it's just like at a telescope in Antarctica or something right now, just like staring up at space doing math. And there's a part of me that's like, it wouldn't be fulfilling in the same way, but like I think I could really enjoy that too. Numbers are fun. Numbers are a lot of fun. So I think I would have enjoyed it, but I am very happy with where I am right now. So I remember I always did like the musicals and things like that in school. And this was when I went to a French immersion school for the first 12, I think, years of my educational career.
Wow.
Up until the end of 9th grade. And I just remember walking down the stairs, and I was just like, you know what? I want to do musical theater. And I just like announced it to the class, and they were like, this is why we bully you, Allegra. And yes. I swear to God, this little mischief maker. So I settled on that, switched to a different high school for the last 3 years of schooling. Yeah, you can go this way, but you can't go on the desk. You know that. Thank you. So I switched to a different high school and was like, okay, I'm gonna go. I ended up getting into Northwestern University. Got into Northwestern University, and was like, I'm gonna be in the theater program and everything. And part of my appeal to Northwestern was that they had like a musical theater certificate. It wasn't a major, it was a certificate, but it was something you had to audition for as opposed to the theater major. And I didn't get in. And I was like, oh gosh. So that's really, it threw a lot of my ambitions and my aspirations into a tailspin. And that was also when I started getting very anxious in life. So I think I always had the anxiety, but like all of a sudden when I went to college, it was like that little fish, rather than being a big fish in a small pond, I was like a regular sized fish in an enormous pond. And it was like, okay, cool. Now I'm, how do I do this? How do I deal with the rejection? And the answer was poorly for the longest time. But I was doing a study abroad program over the summer, and the summer between my sophomore and my junior year. And I remember talking to a friend, and I was specifically talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, wow.
And how much it meant to me. And it just kind of clicked. And I was like, I want to do voiceover. It just occurred to me out of nowhere. It's just like, wait, that's a career. I'm going to do it. And when you think about it, like, I remember the first time I realized that the self-checkout stations at like Target and stuff like that, like they hired someone to do that.
Yeah.
It's very funny, like the weird things that we do in our particular line of work. But I just kind of knew at that point. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And that was the moment that solidified it for me, thinking about Kingdom Hearts specifically. So, because every time, again, it's that crybaby thing. Whenever I watch the end credits of Kingdom Hearts 2, I would just sob. Like out of emotion and everything. So
that's so cool that you got into, like, you got more interested into voice acting through Kingdom Hearts, which is like, it's like from games you got into games. Like, it's so I love that. That's so wonderful.
And like I loved cartoons and anime and video games, obviously. So it was like, it felt like a very natural progression for me. And it felt like
that's great.
It was good.
Lovely. Games I've been a part of. Like, I love playing games so much. It's like I've been playing games for so long. And it's like whenever I see, like now more so than ever, like whenever some new character, like which I'm able to connect to, when they have these incredible stories, I'm like, wow, they do it so well. And I always think about, I always sometimes try to do some of the lines myself, and I'm like, why am I even doing, like, it's like
because you connect to the character.
Yeah, it's like I'm connecting.
It's not your profession. It's like you connect to the character. It's like the people, like for instance with Bloodhound, people love, like people will like come to the booth for like at a convention or something, and they're just like, they kind of do the lines. It's just like they're just like, oh, Father, give me sight. And I'm like, yeah, like it's fun. It's so much fun. And like knowing that the words that the authors wrote and the work that we did in the booth can have that impact on people is so fulfilling to me. Just like, I like knowing that people enjoy my work and enjoy the characters. It makes me feel good.
Absolutely.
So,
you have done some incredible
job. Turns out praise feels good. What's that like? What? I like when people are like, you're a good actor. I'm like, thank you. Oh my God.
Oh no, you truly have done some really incredible work. It's just like, I love those.
I'm very lucky.
You are very talented. That's the other thing, to be really honest. So, great job on whatever all the roles that you have done. In voice acting, I'm assuming you might have someone, or I'm not so sure, but is there some person, some actor that inspired you even more to get better in voice acting, or just get better in acting in general?
Well, I mean, I was always really inspired by, this is not specifically voice acting, a voice actor specifically, but someone I always looked up to as an actor was Madeline Kahn.
Oh.
Madeline Kahn. So did you ever see like Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, some of those old?
Yeah.
Yeah, so her. And I thought she was the funniest woman ever, and I just wanted to be like her. She did a particular performance of Stephen Sondheim. He did a musical. It was not a very popular, successful, financially successful musical, but I'm very fond of it, called Anyone Can Whistle.
Oh, wow.
And the original production actually had Angela Lansbury in the role of the mayor, but they did a concert performance of it. And Madeline Kahn played the mayor, and she was so brilliant in it that like I actually go back to that particular performance and her mannerisms in that role as like a point of humor for me, and like what I like comedically, as far as like, there's time for like really big reactions, and she certainly has very big reactions, but also the opportunity for the really small reactions that she takes just fucking kill me. They end me. So yeah, she's great. As far as in VO specifically, I always go back to like June Foray, who is she did all of the like Looney Tunes and Disney and everything. Yeah. Specifically, like you would know her. I think she was a granny in some of the later Muppet Babies and like Muppet Babies and things like that. I said there's a quote. People say like people are like, oh, she's the female Mel Blanc, but actually Mel Blanc is the male June Foray. Phenomenally talented actress. Yeah, I go back to her. I think of like often like some of the older actors like her or Lucy Taylor, rest in peace.
Absolutely.
I think about them and I'm just like the chameleon of it. And I don't think you need to be a vocal chameleon to be a good actor. Ultimately, it's about the performance and not just what you can do with your voice.
Yeah.
But the fact that they did both, that they're strong performers and also play a spectrum of characters, like young, old, everything from all over the place, and they all feel distinct and wonderful. That's a huge source of inspiration for me. So
yeah, I always am like blown away when any voice actor is able to do different kind of roles and they sound different, and I'm like, how is that? What is this? Is this sorcery? Is this what is going on?
And there's definitely I will say a lot of VO in the past 10 plus years, I would say that there's been a huge shift to more naturalistic things. You can see that a lot in animation.
Yeah.
There are definitely projects where it's like, oh, it's big and it's zany, but a lot of animation is like grounded, real voices. And I think that's partially because sorry, my God, morning voice. It's partially, I think, because of the number of like comedians that have been doing VO. It's not that they're putting on big characters who are, the characters could be really big, but it's their natural voice.
Yeah.
And it's all about their personal comedy style that's coming through. So I think that pushed a lot of animation into less of a like, wow, I gotta do my cartoon voice, into something that's a little bit more like, no, I'm playing this character and she sounds a lot like me. It's not me, but she sounds a lot like me. And I think that's kind of happened a little bit all over the place in VO. So definitely. It's, I find that a lot of the characters I play may exist kind of close to this area, and I can go all over the place, but it's like, at the end of the day, when I'm getting hired, I'm just like, okay, so she's going to kind of sit around here. She's going to sit in this area, and she'll have differences in her speech. Like maybe Beto's going to be a little bit raspier versus this character. Like Boss is a little bit deeper and more sultry, but also flat, flat as in like a flat sense of humor. So like where like those little differences exist, but it's like but it's here. It's kind of like right in this area as opposed to all the way up here, even lower and deeper down.
That's crazy. I mean, I love all of that, and you're right. Like I've heard a lot of like actors like who have like the similar voice as their like original voice, which is like, okay, then it's like especially because in some games I'm like, oh, I cannot recognize. Oh, it's this, like how? And now I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, oh, I recognize maybe this. I pretty much sure that this is him or this is her because the voices are similar but distinct at the same time, which is incredible because then it's like, okay, they are not. It's not exactly who they are portraying themselves. They're like portraying this particular character, and it's working really well. Like, so that is something that I'm like, oh, that is pure talent, and I just insane. I love that one.
You think about someone like Nolan North, who for the longest time was like, protagonist voice, protagonist voice, protagonist voice, and there are differences in there, like, where
Yeah.
like, Drake is going to be a little bit more like, goofy in a
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
and versus others. And then after all of that, he was just like, no, I want to be the Penguin in the Arkham games, and got to do something that was just like completely different. But he
Yeah.
was getting all these paychecks doing Nolan
No,
North
no, no.
voice,
Yeah.
like just being Nolan North, and have a wonderful career with that. And then he was just like, no, I need to flex my chops in a different direction.
Mhm.
Or like Chris Evans, after being Captain America for so long, one of the first gigs he took was being an absolute shithead in Knives Out. And he was just like, I need to play an asshole right now
Yeah.
after being a Boy Scout for I don't even know how many years he is of how
A
many
long
years he was
time.
Captain America,
Yeah,
but
10 years, I guess.
a decade probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like probably a decade.
Oof.
So yeah, I think it's always really interesting when actors are just like, no, I like my bread and butter is this thing that I do. But like, oh, you want me to do something really different?
Yeah.
Okay. Like
Exciting. Let's jump into that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
never gonna be I'm never gonna be pissed about being typecast into that like, alto range tough girl though. Like that's I love it and I love those characters so much. So I'm not mad about it. But when they're just like, you're gonna play someone who's really cute and sweet, and I'm like, oh, I'm playing cute and sweet? Okay. Like, hey.
that's wonderful. Do you have like when you continued this or you started getting voice acting roles and especially video games? Do you remember like your first like biggest video game role that you got into?
Oh yeah, that was Dragon Age for
Ah,
sure. That was the big one, like
oh yeah.
Josephine, which I love joking about it as like, oopsies, I tripped into a AAA game as my first gig.
Oops.
Ooh,
Who would have thought?
oopsies, oopsies. I think I'd done like one really, really tiny indie game before that. And then I auditioned for Dragon Age and they were just like, oopsies, you're a love interest. And I was like, oopsies.
Oh.
Um, it was very oopsies. And then, yeah, so when they announced me, they were just like, who is she? Like, she did like a student film in college, but like, what? And then it was like, haha, here we go. So that was like my first big gig. And I was Dragon Age is one of my favorite video games, like that series.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So when I auditioned for it, I had auditioned for it because I met David Gator at a convention. And a friend of mine was like, she does voiceover. And I was like, thank you so much for being the one to say it. So I didn't have to be the one to say it. And he was like, okay, cool. Like, what accents can you do? And I was like, oh, Cockney RP, but also I speak French and Italian. Because, French, obviously from 12 years of French school. And
Yeah.
then Italian I learned in college. And I was in Italy when I had that acting realization. I was in Padua,
Wow.
Padova. So he was like, oh, we're going to need that in the next game. Obviously talking about Inquisition. And yeah, and then I booked the Italian chick. Like they were just like, hey, Italian girl. And I was like, yeah, Italian girl. So that was such a treat to be a part of. And I was so nervous my first session. I was like crying and like, oh
Oh
my God,
man.
I don't deserve to be here. But what's interesting is that for all my anxiety, I am such an anxious person.
I can feel
It's
it. I am the
it's
same.
it can be so paralyzing at times, and there are times where I will just be like, talking to my boyfriend or something like that, and I was just like, I know I have stuff to do right now, but I'm frozen in place and I
Mm,
don't know what I should do. And he's just like,
yeah.
well, this is the first step, like do this first. And I was like, no, you don't understand, I can't do anything. It can be really paralyzing. But when I'm also very practical, so if I know it's like you have to be at X place at X time, I'm like, all right, I got to be at X place at X time. Oh, I'm expected to from a professional level to be at the studio. Cool, I will do it. Oh, I have this audition I have to submit. Okay, I will do it. And
Mm,
then when I get in the booth, it's like literally everything melts away, and I'm like, it's work time. It's
wow.
I describe it as like me putting on my work hat and going, all right, here we go. It's time to work.
Mm,
And I it's like my focus just like shoots up, and I'm like, all right, cool, we got this, let's go. And then I get in my car and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so anxious about everything. But it was helpful. It was really helpful, especially early on when I just had the worst imposter syndrome. And I was like, I don't deserve to be in this video game. I'm going to fuck it up. I'm going to ruin it. They're going to waste their time and money. They're going to recast me. And then I just sort of step into the booth and I'm just like, all right, what's my first line? Where are we going? Tell me about her. Let's go. That's how I know I'm where I'm meant to be. You know, the fact that it's like everything melts away and I'm like, cool. Tell me what I need to know. Let's go.
But you know, like it's so cool that your first like biggest role was Dragon Age. I know a lot of my friends love Dragon Age, and that's a big game. Inquisition is such a awesome and big game. And you know, speaking,
I was just like, especially oopsies. My first credit was 2014's Game of the Year. Oopsies, oopsies. Oh no, whoops. Oh God, whoops. Oh no, oh God, whoops.
So crazy. Like the first game, like what did you work on the first game? Oh, the game that won Game of the Year. That was my first game.
Yep. Like,
so
whoopsies.
Cool. It's amazing
also,
to have.
I don't know why I did this, but I need you to know I did this. I was like gonna open like a little bit of my like this granola bar and just take a quick bite of it. But for whatever reason, rather than doing it like this, like a normal person, I started to do it and I was like, the plastic's getting cut. And I just pulled out my fucking box cutter that I have on my desk and was like, this worked. Why am I like this? Why am I like this? It's like you give a girl a box cutter and she's just like, I'm gonna use that. Sitting just like,
whoa.
And now you can see how unserious I am and how not seriously I take myself. Oh my God.
I was trying to say about, you know, you being part of like this big game and you know, with that, speaking of like bigger games and all that, you get to play a bigger character, Marisa, in Street Fighter 6.
Marisa, Street Fighter 6. Yes, I love her so much.
She's like one of the top characters that people are playing in the game, which is insane.
I know. It's so cool. Like, it's so wonderful. Like, I know when she first leaked, there was like a lot of like a huge art leak. This time last year, wasn't it? And people were like, oh, like that's weird. I don't know. That hair looks stupid. And then they actually showed her off properly for the first time. And everyone's like, oh no, she's the coolest. And every single bit of lore drop since then with her, everyone is like, oh no, she's cool. Amidst all of course, the step on me, mommy.
Oh yeah, of course, that's going to happen.
Which, I mean, have you seen her? She's 6'8".
She is,
She is 6'8", and I think she weighs 260 pounds or something like that.
I think so. Pounds? I'm forgetting how much she weighs, but yeah, she's big.
She's a big, strong Italian woman.
Yeah.
So she's so wonderful, and we had so much fun with her in the booth. She's great. And I'm so flattered. I think someone just won a tournament this weekend as Marisa. I was like, that's cool as hell.
That is great.
Big Bird, I want to say.
I think so. I'm also forgetting. My brain
I think it was like Big Bird, and I watched the final match, and I was just like, literally, it ended with the Drive Impact.
Oh, wow.
I think critical. No, it wasn't the critical art. I'm like, I play it enough. Like I know it enough that I know some of the words, but I feel like I mess them up in my head. I'm a fake geek girl.
That's okay. But Marisa has been, as I said, like people love it. People want to get stepped by it. But it's amazing. Like that people have been playing that character so much, and it's something that I never expected. That this is a very different character, very interesting, and you get to do all these lines. So do you remember, or do you have like any favorite lines that you remember of, like as voicing Marisa? What would be your favorite lines if you had any?
Oh boy. Well, I remember saying Gladius and like having to go really quickly on it because it was like a really like Gladius. Like it had to be like a very fast one because it was just like it's just like a kind of a forward strike.
Yeah.
So that one was a little stressful getting it in time. I was just like, does it sound good? Does it sound okay? Like, what are we doing? Honestly, it was like I remember the first time we did it was specifically the critical art where she does it's as a part because it's kind of like a multi-stage thing where like it may start with one thing and then it ends with another. But in the critical art, that's when she does take all of it. And sorry, I was like pushing that back in the hopes that it didn't blow out the mic.
I can understand.
And you know, does this, and the character is left with all like a heart on their face. I was like, that is so cool. And it's like, take my love, take all of it. And I was like, I had so much fun with that line. That one, that's kind of the cool core of her character, is this, like, you know, love of and passion that she has for everything. And I do feel like that is like so cool. The other one that I like was and I just like, I didn't necessarily know, because when you're recording the lines, you don't always know like the context of it, like what it's going to look like from an animation standpoint. There were certain things that had to be timed to animation, like I said, like the art and everything. But other things were just like I would hear a Japanese reference, match it, hear a Japanese reference, match it, and we'd do a few, and then they'd pause and they'd listen back to a few and go, okay, let's listen to this one. Because actually, this is one thing I love about Street Fighter. They're super accessible, and they want to make sure that all of the sounds are distinct so that people who are hard of sight can hear the game and know what's going on. And it's like a series of distinct sounds. So every way that she gets hit feels distinct. Every way attack that she does is distinct, so that they know exactly what she's doing and what the other character is doing. It's really, really cool, and I love it. But the one that I didn't know was going to be great was the "Where are you going?" when she does like grabs them and goes down. When I saw how that one was used and I saw that animation, I was like, wow, that's sick. That's sick. The first things that we recorded were the story mode stuff. And like the introduction in world mode, and then and all of that. So we did all the story stuff first, and then the later sessions were fighting. So yeah, it was just a lot. It was fun.
Lovely. She's a very fun character. I did not expect her voice lines to be to be so funny. You know, whatever she's. It's.
But Street Fighter is a funny game. It's very funny. Like there's so much humor in it. I love Juri's. If you are, again, in like the story mode, playing as her, and you hit you get knocked out, and it's got the countdown from 10 before you hit continue. If you don't hit continue with her, she flops over, like flops down, and then stares up, because it's like there's a camera above her, and she goes, "Hey, what are you looking at?" I'm like, it's just so funny. Oh, man. And the developers know, and they lean into things, and they have a lot of fun with it. And I feel like the fun they're having is obvious, because it's just like they as creators are having so much fun, so it means the actors get to have fun, so everyone working on it is like playing, and I think it reads to players, you know, that they have the right to have fun with this game, that they can laugh along with it. So
absolutely, and that's great. I love that. And you know, Street Fighter is a franchise itself, which is like been going on for so long. And there's like people love this game so much. So what was your reaction like when you got to know, oh, this is Street Fighter? I'm in what was the reaction? Was there something like, oh, so cool?
I could tell. They wouldn't tell me what I was auditioning for. So when I got the audition, it didn't say that it was for Street Fighter. And then I had to do a callback. And because it was, and this is, I told the story on Alex's stream, but I kind of went easy with the exerts and the fighting sounds in my audition, because because the direction was that they didn't want her to be unfeminine. So I was like, oh, maybe if she's really big and really strong, maybe all of the fighting sounds are effortless for her. She's so big and strong that she doesn't have to sound like she's working so hard. And as you know, that's not the direction they went in and the direction they wanted. So we get an email from Jonathan Klein, who is the VO director for the game. And he was like, hey, clients loved the lines, but they weren't sold on the excerpts. Here's the Japanese reference of what she sounds like.
Oh.
Can we get on a Skype call and do that? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like, oh, that's what you want. And when we were on the call, I was like, this is Street Fighter 6, isn't it? Jonathan's like, I can't say what this is. And I was like, I know what this is, Street Fighter 6. So when I got cast, oh my God, I knew I was really close. I knew I was probably like their top pick, but that's why they had to check. And so I was anxious for the longest time. And I was like telling my agents, like, can you follow up? Can you see whether or not this is happening? And then I get like, I don't know if it was like an email or a phone call where they're just like, Street Fighter. And I was like, yay, we did it. We got it. Actually, I think they didn't specifically say it's Street Fighter until I got into the booth. But at least finding out, it's just like, you booked this character. I was just like, oh man, I'm going to be a Street Fighter playable character. That's so cool. Go in, have my first session, waited 3 months for my second session. So I was they replaced me. They replaced me. That's it. Turns out they just didn't have they weren't ready to do the rest of everything, but they at least wanted to do the cutscenes and the story mode and all that stuff. But I was so anxious, and I wanted the gig so badly. And I try so hard to not covet things, because when you covet and you get like really like, I want this, you can get disappointed. Like, I found out I was second choice for things that I really coveted, and second, knowing that you made it and you were like the second pick on something feels great, but at the same time, you're not getting the job.
Yeah.
It's like, the silver medal is nice to have, but you don't get anything for the silver medal. So whenever I found out I was second pick, it's like, oh, glad to know I got that close, but so why put yourself through that stress? It's easier to just send in an audition and go like, all right, that's it, moving on with my life.
Yeah.
So I was trying not to covet, but that one I coveted. I coveted it. Yeah. When it's something French or Italian and they're looking for something kind of authentic, I'm just like, all right, come on, guys. Like, I feel like I'm in a pretty good pocket for this. So just please.
Let's just take me.
Like, please pick me. I want to do it so badly.
That's wonderful. Hey, good job. You did such a great job as playing this character. It's so fun, listening to her actually. So fun. And she's great character. And there's Marisa, one big character. There's also Zangief, who's also a big character. So like, if there's a fight between the two, who do you think is going to be the winner? I mean, you probably would be biased to choose Marisa.
I'm biased towards me, but technically, and it's interesting, Zangief's story mode ends with him fighting her, and he has to win for it to continue. So I would say that they're pretty evenly matched. I think it's going to depend on the day, who against who. I mean, but that's kind of the thing with Street Fighter. I think they're all really powerful in their own right. So it's just going to kind of depend on the days and the circumstances, or quite literally, who's controlling.
I was about to say.
At the controller.
Who is
to see what kind of even match. But I know that, they have to work so hard as well. And this is, again, purely from a game mechanics standpoint. They have to work so hard to keep the characters balanced. So I think from that meta perspective, I can look at it and go like, they're all evenly matched with each other. It's just a matter of like, maybe one person is a little better against a specific type of character.
Yeah.
I was actually watching a bunch of like Mortal Kombat players last week. Only because there was the Sonic Fox. This one person on Twitter was like, you ain't shit, and challenged Sonic Fox, or really was like, I could beat you. And so especially, and they were also like shaming the fact that Sonic Fox is like, queer and the furry. So Sonic Fox was like, all right, I'll take you in Mortal Kombat, and we'll, depending on, you're a furry if you lose.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give you $10,000 if I lose, and if you lose, you become a furry.
Wow.
And I watched that video, and oh, absolutely, Sonic Fox crushed this idiot. It's just like, really? Sonic Fox, you're gonna trash talk Sonic Fox? Okay. Yeah, sure. Sure. Okay. Just, you know, one of the monarchs of fighting games. You're gonna challenge Sonic Fox. Okay, yeah, sure. So I watched that, and I watched it on stream, and a few other people were sending other Mortal Kombat, like people basically curb stomping jerks.
Yeah.
And, you know, you could definitely see like, oh, this character is more of a like a grappler versus this character is very much a ranged character, especially in Mortal Kombat where they could have guns.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, the characters with guns, it's like you definitely want to stay farther away. So like, you know, this character could be really good against the type of character who has to get up and close and personal. So there are little things like that. I'm sorry, we're like so off topic right now. But you know, otherwise, yeah, it's, you know, they're all good in their own right. Maybe someone might be a little better against a specific person, but again, it all depends on who's at the controller.
Yep, that's the big game.
All depends on the controller.
That's the big game. That's true. But yeah, as you said before earlier, like, you know, a lot of people like are you know, simps and stuff like that. They're just gonna get just stepped on. I literally watched I like another video like recently about Marisa as well, and I saw one of the comments saying this is the second Street Fighter character I can simp for. So I was like, okay, that's great.
Who was the first?
For the first for that person was Chun-Li.
Valid.
Very valid. That makes sense.
Chun-Li's an OG. She's beautiful.
Absolutely. Like, what do you think
and
about all
she's got
these?
some beautiful thighs. Beautiful thighs.
That's true.
It's
funny.
I'm queer as heck. I'm looking at all the women too, going like, damn.
It's amazing. Like, people like, you know, we had, I think back in I don't know which year Resident Evil came out, but then Lady Dimitrescu was going crazy with everybody wanted stuff. I think it was 21.
Was that 2 years ago?
I think so. Yeah, 2021 is like, yeah, when Dimitrescu was going awesome, like crazy, when everybody wanted her to step on them, and then now Marisa is like one of them as well. So like, oh, this is great.
Where are you going? And just the giant woman phase. Let the giant women take over. let them rule supreme.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Large women, good. And I love Marisa too, because she's not like Lady Dimitrescu. Obviously, she's very tall, but she's got like a very like, you know, hourglass figure.
Yeah.
Marisa doesn't. She's like muscle. So you know, so like she doesn't have like, you know, you can see that there's definition, but at the same time, she's not got one of those like very traditionally feminine hourglass figures. You know, she's built. And the fact that people are horny for that, I'm just like, good. We're seeing a range of like body types in terms of what people are into. Like, you know, good. I love it.
That's so fun. That's
giant
amazing.
Step on me, mommy.
Oh man, you know, like apart from like Marisa, like so many characters that people just love. Which character do you like the most apart from Marisa? Which character do you love?
I can't pick I do not pick between my babies. I can't. Well, because they're all like different parts of me. So like there are ones that I can say I'm very close to in personality, but otherwise I don't, you know, I can't pick between my children, you know.
That's it.
Well, because you put a little bit of yourself into everything, you know. You're spending time with them, you find points of commonality between them, you know. It's not like I'm going like, you know, like Marisa, I'm going, yes, and let me take this like, you know, this vial of Allegra and just inject it in. It's I'm finding the points of like, you know, who I am versus who the character is, and celebrating those points where we are similar. And that's, you know, that's a joy for me. And it's always interesting playing characters who do have like a lot of overlap, because it becomes very personal.
Yeah.
And that's Dorothy and Fire Emblem. That was a very personal performance for me.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Really? How was that? What was that like, you know, being in that character and like in that game? Like, what was that whole reaction? Like your whole journey, like at that one?
Well, it was interesting because I get in the booth and they're just like, "You're playing Shamir," and I was like, "Oh, cool! You're also playing Dorothea." Wait,
Yeah.
what? Like,
Two
why am I playing
characters.
two characters? Why? What? And but I guess they knew I could do it, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." But yeah, no, it was good. What was nice was that except for the days where I had pickups, I got to spend, like, I wasn't going in and going like, this is Shamir, now this is Dorothy. I want to say my very first session as on Three Houses, not even counting Three Hopes. My very first session on Three Houses, I had to go through like battle lines for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's partially also to establish their voices and make sure that, we knew what these characters sounded like before we moved forward with everything else. But I got to go like, okay, this is going to be like 2 days of Shamir or 2 days of Dorothea, where, I'm spending time with those characters and I'm not having to jump back and forth between the two, which I always really appreciate when I'm playing more than one character, because it lets the character really sit with me before I have to switch.
Yeah.
So this is also a thing. If I'm, this wouldn't necessarily be the case for animation, but for dubbing, when I am dubbing something, I am going through everything as the one character and then going back and going through as the other character. So it's definitely, it feels very distinct and separate, like, experiences. So I don't have to, and I don't mind doing the juggling, but it's easier to not have to juggle and,
Absolutely.
just spend time with the one character rather than going back and forth. So you can just kind of live in that space. But yeah, and then coming back for Three Hopes, that was truly magical, because, it's like, it's the same character again, slightly different circumstances in terms of like what their journey is, as opposed to Three Houses, which already had, 4 different paths you could end up on. And Three Hopes is like, there are 3 different paths you can end up on that is deviating from the first thing in the first place. But it was just so nice to come back and be like, I know who these characters are. If Dorothea is speaking to like Petra or Edelgard or Ferdinand or Hubert or anyone, it's like, I know these actors, I know these performances, these characters. So I could literally just sincerely imagine it, hear it in my mind, and know, like, I think this is where Faye is going to take this line, for instance, if I'm speaking to Petra, like, I think this is where Faye is going to take it. So I feel like, the conversations felt so natural to me as a result. And that's great. That's the power of, usually you get that experience if you're actually in the booth with other actors doing like prelay on animation or something. That's when you get that experience. But for this was like the closest to it, because you're just like, I know what she's going to do. I know what he's going to do. Okay, cool. Or like,
wonderful.
with Shamir, on the Shamir side of things, it'd be like chatting with Catherine, or even like chatting with a character that and either of those characters had never spoken to before. So like Dorothea has supports with Hilda and Flayn, or not to mention Shez, but like, Hilda and Flayn. At the very least, it's like, I know the characters and I know the voices. So like I still know how this is going to flow. I still know how this is going to work, even if like this is a new relationship for Dorothea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shamir is speaking to Balthus for the first time in my mind, but I know who Balthus is, so I know where I'm going to do it,
Yeah, I can totally imagine. It certainly helps, and because these characters more. When you get into a game for the very first time, I think it's a little challenging, harder to imagine or stuff like that. But you came back to a game that you already were a part of before, and so it must be easier for you. But I always like very fascinated with the process of how you guys, when you guys book a character. So like what in general, like the process of your recording goes when you like, okay, you get this character, you booked it, now it's recording time, and or you have gonna had to record
it's gonna vary. It's gonna vary greatly based off of the project. Usually the first and most important thing is establishing the voice. So making sure like, this is where this character is going to sit, especially if it's something that like, I didn't audition for this character and they're just like, we want Allegra to come in. So we'll take a few lines, like go to the top of the script, and it's just like, can you read this like few groups of lines and just give us what you think this character sounds like. And it's like, okay, we play around in that space. If they feel like I'm not quite approaching it the right way and they want to give a tweak, I'll give a tweak and everything. And then we settle on what it is. And then we just go. Now, like I said, it's going to kind of depend on the project and depend on the process. So if something has ADR, that's going to go a little bit more slowly because we're looking to picture, we're checking the ref and everything, and then acting. Some things, it's like an echo, it's like a listen and repeat or an echo repeat. So they'll play the original audio in whatever language it is, like Japanese, Chinese, Korean, and then I will just listen to it, see where they are with it. Maybe they give me a time frame where it's like it has to fit 5 seconds or something like that, and then I do the line in response to it, usually an A and a B. And then you have things that are just completely wild. So they're not playing a reference, or it's a piece of like a Western game where I'm the first voice for it. So it's just, no necessary strict time constraints. Like maybe sometimes it's like, all right, this line has to go a little faster than what you were giving, but not like hey, the original audio was 2 seconds, so you have to get kind of within 0.5 seconds of that 2 second, or you can't go over 2 seconds or anything along those lines. No constraints, just act. And that's always where that's the most liberating, because there's no technical things you're really keeping in mind other than general technique. But that's all the stuff that's like kind of the back of your mind. Like you're not thinking actively in terms of like acting techniques or performance techniques or anything when you're performing. You're just kind of going, versus, like I said, when you have any kind of technical constraint, like trying to match an initial performance, or having a time code, or picturing like working to flap or anything along those lines, that's when you have like very specific technical constraints that you're trying to meet. I always find that wild lines are the most liberating as far as that goes, and we can fly through those lines. Oh my God. But it's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's going to vary
definitely.
based off of like, Apex Legends is one where everything is wild. Unless we're doing a cinematic of some kind, in which case then I have to pay attention to the cinematic. But even the radio plays, we're recording that. Actually, I will say the radio plays for Apex Legends, so like the Fuse and Bloodhound getting together thing, we didn't get to be in the same room because of COVID constraints. But Ben was in the studio and I was in my little home studio, and we recorded simultaneously. So we were actually acting off of each other, which in video games, unless you're doing performance capture, you don't really get to do that in video games, like have the other actor there. So it was great. That part was fantastic. That was so good. But yeah,
knowing that about like, getting the opportunity to act with the other partner as well, to act with them, it's great. It's amazing. Like as I said, it doesn't happen because either you list, either it's, I believe it's already either it's already recorded and then you listen to it and then you respond to the whatever recording is there, or you just
or you're the first person to record,
or you're first person
and to record. Or you're just acting on your own, or you're the first person to record, so you like don't necessarily know what this person is going to do and blah blah blah. So no, it's great. It is that was so much fun. And Fuse Hound was the first one I did, so it was like, and I love Ben Prendergast. He's a friend, and so he and I, like when we got the scripts in the first place, we're just texting each other, they're in love. So we had a lot of fun with it.
That was very interesting. I loved watching that. I was like, wow, I never expected that. So and Apex Legends is a game that because I am someone who doesn't play a whole lot of multiplayer games. I have played like Call of Duties, but I'm not playing too much of it. And Apex Legends was a battle royale game, and I don't like battle royales. But I played Apex Legends.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, it was
I'm not a
something.
battle royale person.
Yeah, I just didn't like battle royale, but Apex Legends for some reason I got into it, and it
It
was like
hit.
it was
Yeah.
so cool. And Bloodhound literally was my first character I picked, and I've been playing that character for long and long.
Did you start in season 0 like right when it launched or a
I
little bit later?
literally, from when it launched, I played it because I thought like, okay,
Yay.
Respawn are making probably another Titanfall game. I expected literally that, and they made Apex Legends, which was really surprising for me. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, battle
It was like
royale.
it's an offshoot. It's the same
Yeah,
universe as
same
Titanfall, but like
universes. Yeah,
very different, but very different gameplay style. Like,
yeah, and
because it was either there was multiplayer component of it, but
yeah,
then also the single player narrative component. This is like no, pure battle
yeah,
royale.
yeah.
Let's fucking go. And we knew what it was. They actually they told us, as everyone now knows, like, we're just going to drop this game out of nowhere, which you never know when you're working on a game. Like, is this game going to work? Sometimes you love recording a game, you work on it, and people don't really play it. And you're just like, oh. And sometimes it's because, like, oh, maybe the story is really good, but the gameplay doesn't necessarily work, or it just doesn't, it's really niche, so people don't necessarily pick it up. I think as far as like niche games go, I worked on 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, which was pretty niche as far as games go, but everyone who plays it absolutely loves it because it is a brilliant, beautiful game. But it was that's a little bit more niche of a game, and you hope it's going to explode. You hope everyone's going to play it, and not everyone does, and it's a bummer. But you never know what game is gonna catch on like wildfire. So again, something like Dragon Age. You're like, it's a sequel. Where people are at least going to play it. Maybe they won't love it, but hopefully they love it because I love it. When it's something like a new IP, and Apex Legends isn't a new IP, but it's as close to a new IP as possible while being an established world and universe. When it's something completely off base, you're just like, all right, I hope this thing slaps. I hope people like it. And I've been very lucky to be in at least two games, at least two that are like coming to my mind right now, that were not sequels, direct sequels, that absolutely blew up. Apex Legends was one, because again, it's a different genre of game. So were people going to be into it? People were absolutely into it. Holy shit. And then the other one was Genshin Impact, where it was like, oh my God, people really like this game. So
Jesus, yeah.
And you never know. Sometimes you go in on something. And I remember where I like recorded the game and I was like, okay, yeah, cool. And then this is for Genshin specifically. And then someone told me, it was just like, man, like, I'm really excited about this game called Genshin Impact. It was like, someone was a close friend. And I was like, what are you? I'm actually in that. And she was like, really? Have you not seen people, like streamers, being really excited about it? And I was like, no, I haven't seen it. Are people excited about this game? Oh, that's cool. Okay, what? And then the game launches and it's like, oh dear God, people really like this game. My goodness. Those are at least the two examples that come to mind of like, something like Street Fighter, or like Fire Emblem. No one quite expected how big Three Houses was going to be, but at least like, it's a Fire Emblem game.
Yeah.
If nothing else, I can say I was in a Fire Emblem game. If nothing else, I can say I was in Street Fighter. If nothing else, I can say I was in this. And then it explodes to the extent that it does, and you're just like, my God, okay, here we are. Let's go. Let's do this.
Absolutely. It's crazy. As I said, like, nobody knew that Apex Legends, like a game like Apex Legends or even Genshin Impact, is going to go this far, especially Apex Legends, because I played Genshin Impact, but I am not so much, unfortunately, I didn't get so far into Genshin Impact, but I did play a whole lot of Apex. I've started playing that because I'm not getting enough time, but I played a whole lot of Apex Legends, and I just didn't expect this game to be blowing up. I didn't expect I would like that game so much, because I don't like Battle Royale, but I like this. But it's crazy that the game came out 4 years ago. When I'm thinking about it, like, my gosh, it came out 4 years ago, and people are still constantly at it, and it's still going, getting content, all this stuff, new characters.
Cool.
And
so cool.
I remember that the first time when the game came out, and everybody was playing Bloodhound, and then we got to know, like, Bloodhound is voiced by you. Everybody's like, how is
like,
this?
What?
This makes no sense. I remember that talk.
There was also a lot of initial, like, me having to go, hey guys, Bloodhound is non-binary. Just so you guys
Yeah.
know. Just like a really casual, like, oh yeah, Bloodhound's non-binary. Just, don't worry
Yeah.
about it. Just use they, them pronouns for them. Just don't, like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing, right?
Yeah.
It was not nothing. It was not nothing to some people. Obviously, you had
Oh,
people who were really excited because, it was non-binary representation. And, the LGBTQ plus community has been like so excited about Bloodhound. And that has brought me so much joy. But then you have people who were just like, that doesn't exist. And I'm like,
okay, here
oh,
we go.
no.
This
Oh,
is
boy. Okay. This is going to be a part of my life. This is going to be a part of my life.
that was
Yeah.
that was that
And
was
it
a whole
has been.
conversation. Yeah, it was a whole even now, like it was crazy to me when I got to like, oh, you voiced that. I was like, wow, this is so cool. How did she do that? It's so amazing to voice in such a particular way, and have this particular different sounding voice. And I was like, that's amazing. I had like huge respect. I got to know you from there,
Thank
so I
you.
was like, huge respect.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this is so
Thank
cool.
you.
And ever since
In
that day,
fairness, with all of that, there was a little bit of vocal modulation on it. So
yeah,
obviously there's the gas mask
yeah,
filter thing.
absolutely.
And I also pitched my voice down a little bit. I don't know how much, but a little bit.
Hmm.
And like, I want to say maybe 2 steps or something. Enough that it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm starting from a deeper place in my register. I'm like usually around here when I start recording Bloodhound related things. And then they pitch it down even more.
Yeah.
And so people are like, sounds so different. I'm like, well, I'm getting a little bit of technical help there. There's some literal digital help happening as far as making them sound different from me. But,
Yeah, I still
Bloodhound's
love.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, I still love the fact that you got to be a part of that game, and there's so many cool characters, and I'm like, there's keep on adding more. And as I said, like Ben, the Fuse, and like I'm like, oh, so good. And then he got to be part of God of War Ragnarok. I'm like, wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah, I know. I
So
was so happy when he was able to announce God of War.
yeah,
He was like, he mentioned it to me, and I was like, bro, that's so cool. Actually, no, he didn't. That was a complete shock to me. I
oh
think he
wow,
told me that he had something like really big that he was waiting to announce, but he didn't tell me what it was. And then it was God of War, and I was like,
wow,
yo, okay. Oh, and you're the God of War in this case. Okay.
yeah,
Okay, let's go. Let's go
crazy.
then.
It was just awesome. Like
What?
he got to be the God of War. I was like, oh my
The God
god,
of War.
and I love that.
A really interesting character. Yeah.
Really
I was so
interesting
proud
character.
of him.
I
It's
love
always
that
really
game.
fun when you get to see like your friends do cool things. You're just like, I'm so proud of you. Like that's so cool. Like my friend Chris Hackney, when he announced that he was in Tears of the Kingdom, I was just like, let's fucking go, because he's such a Zelda fan. So like him being in that, you're just like, oh my god, this is good. This is so good.
Yeah,
Like, yay.
it's amazing. I've seen some people that are like voice actors are like fans of a game, and they get to be in the game, and they're like, oh my god, that's crazy. That's just like amazing. I just lovely to see that.
Like Alejandro and Zeno were so hype about Persona 3 in particular. They loved that game. Zeno, that was his favorite Persona game. So getting to be in it, especially like not even just the franchise, like we're remaking Persona 3, congratulations, you're Junpei. Like that was so hype for him. He was so excited. And then God Mitsuru for me. I love her. Ah,
oh man,
but it's really satisfying. It's really satisfying getting to celebrate your friends in general. That is one thing about VO that I really like. Is I feel like we all are a little bit more relaxed when it comes to, there's you know who your competition is.
Yeah.
You know who is in your category. You know who you're probably going up against as far as, auditions and things go. But like when you're their friend and just getting to see them work on something, I'm just like, oh, that's great. I remember Erica Lindbeck and I were top 2 for something. Wow. I don't want to mention what it was, but we were top 2 on something, and they went with her. And when that came out, I listened to her and I was like, oh yeah, I really like her take on this, because we were approaching the character from 2 different places, and getting to hear her pass on it. I was like, yeah, that's good. I like that. I like that more than what I was doing. This is great. Like, It's fun. It's a positive and satisfying.
That's so cool. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, Erica has been part of a game that I really like, and I'm a lover for Spider-Man. So I love Spider-Man so much. I'm
Mm.
like, because big Spider-Man fan. I remember when Spider-Man
Yeah.
No Way Home came out, I was like, I told my friends like, if you guys don't come in this time, I'm just gonna walk in. I'm not gonna wait for you. I can't. I cannot miss one single scene. So I'm like, I'm that kind of fan. So I know,
Yeah.
I know that you get to play. I got to play Gwen Stacy in
Yes.
yeah, I was
Marvel Ultimate
great
Alliance.
Ultimate Alliance 3, and I was
Yeah.
like, wow, it's so cool. And so I know that Marvel
She was a
Spider-Man,
lot of fun. That was a
yeah,
very silly game. I had a lot of fun with it.
there's so many characters in that game. I was like, wow, there's
Oh
so
my
many
God, yeah.
amazing actors in this game. I'm like, Jesus
That
Christ,
that cast was stacked, and then
I
I was there like,
stacked.
what the fuck am I doing here? Because I was still fairly green in the industry when that game came out, so I
Yeah,
was just like, what the fuck am I doing here? Ah,
I would say
yeah.
one thing that I'm just super excited, and I just love your
Mhm.
interpretation of Gwen as well in Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I love that because I've seen some Gwen Stacy. Unfortunately, I've not seen a lot in like animated stuff, but I did see like
Mhm.
obviously in Spider Verse. And like I
Yeah.
was like, it's so similar, and so that when I got to see Spider Verse, I was like, I reminded me of Ultimate Alliance. I was like, oh, this is so like similar. And I was like, so I like that, and so
Yeah.
he did a great job of
Um,
that.
Gwen was definitely a little bit more like, I want to say like sassy in a different way,
Yeah.
because Haley Steinfeld's Gwen
Yeah.
is sassy and dry, where
Hmm.
mine is a little bit more like sassy in like a slightly perky way.
Yeah.
So it was definitely, it's like a slightly different character. I gave one take that was a little bit like quirkier, and then one that was a little bit closer to what Haley Steinfeld did. Although I think this was before I auditioned for it and recorded it before Into the Spider-Verse came out. So it was interesting seeing that like my second take on the audition was actually like in the same zone as what Haley Steinfeld was doing in the movie.
Hmm.
But they went with my first take for the audition, which was a little bit bubblier. And I was like, all right, yeah. It's like, it's interesting how you can like play around with iterations of the same character, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and that's lovely. But
Yeah.
you've done so many games, and you definitely have like learned a lot of things. But what was like the biggest thing that you got to learn in your career so far as a voice actor?
Mm. I mean, obviously, just trusting my instincts and going for it, not getting too wrapped up or second guessing or anything, which was something that like I said, to an extent, I did it naturally, but getting that really reinforced for me so that I could leave the booth and not immediately doubt and second guess everything that I had done.
Hmm.
Just trusting the director and going like, okay, cool. They obviously know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. I'm just gonna like put my faith in the fact that they and the client are working really hard to make sure that I sound good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let it be. I feel like I've learned little things from every director that I've worked with, you know,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely.
Like every director has added something to my toolbox that I can draw upon,
Hmm.
even if I'm not drawing upon it intentionally. I took a workshop with Charlie Adler.
Oh wow,
um, yeah, he really loosened me up in the booth and made me a lot more playful,
that's
um,
amazing.
a lot more instinctual, and I feel like that really narrowed in this like go with what feels right
Hmm.
sensation, especially when I work on some projects where it's like, okay, next,
Hmm.
next. When you have to move fast, you don't have time to go like, really like, okay, what's my motivation or anything like that. You just gotta keep moving.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the case in video games. Video games are the fastest pace type of project that
Hmm.
I've worked on. That, and like I've done just like the tiniest little bit of audiobook stuff, and you don't have time to be precious with audiobooks because there's so many words and
Hmm.
so little time. Um, so, but video games are like very fast paced as far as recording goes. So it's always behooved me with that to not be overly precious with things and just kind of move and flow. And it doesn't come from a place of like, you know, oh, I don't care. Like, I don't care. I do very much care. And if I'm like, can I do that one again? I will ask the question, but it's just kind of leaning into like being able to make a good choice with my gut. Like just going like, this is where she is. All right. And do the line, give the A and B. If they want to give me a redirect, I will take the redirect. But otherwise, it's just like giving myself over to the character and to the director and going like, I trust you to steer me in the right direction. I am going to follow the map that the script and the character have given me. But you as the director, I know it's your job to direct. And if I'm off course, you can adjust. You can help me adjust it. And yeah, taking direction is one of the greatest things that you can do as an actor, because like, if you can do that adjustment, then you're making the director's job easier, because directors don't expect you to get it right immediately, you know, because, you know, it's their job to know what does or doesn't sound good. You're just kind of giving it, and you may be approaching it from a slightly different angle because, you know, you don't have the full context. You haven't seen the full game. You don't know what the other actor may have already recorded that you haven't gotten to listen back to. So, you know, they're not expecting you to be perfect on the first shot. They expect you to give a damn good performance, but it doesn't have to be the right performance. And they will course correct you as needed. So just being able to work with the director and take the direction and take the feedback, also without feeling like, and this is something that I had to mentally adjust for. Getting feedback in the booth is not criticism. It's just an adjustment. It is direction. It is not criticism. It is not them going, you are a bad actor. It is them going, do it more like this. And knowing that and internalizing that is one of the most important things in your acting toolbox. Because like, man, you can't have a breakdown every time a director says like, readjust you on a line, because it's okay if you're not necessarily finding a particular beat immediately. You don't want that to be happening the entire session. You don't want to do 12 takes on a line. That's a lot. But every once in a while, if it takes you 8 takes to get somewhere, it's fine. It's fine, because you don't have to know everything. It's not your job to know literally everything. That's what the director is for. That is literally what they are there for. They are there to steer the ship.
Right. That's to me, that sounds so scary when you said like, you know, you have to readjust and stuff like that. It's me because I've not done anything, and obviously so obviously for me it's like, oh gosh, I'll be dying there. But you know, that's something that I can imagine that it's super important to understand and just go with the change and trying to just adjust with that. And that's a lot of things that you definitely have to learn. But you know, there's a lot of people, I know a lot of friends of mine who are trying to get into voice acting. Was sometimes a little bit interested in it as well. But for anybody who is like going to voice acting or starting voice acting, is there something like a biggest thing that you think that these voice actors kind of miss on or always neglect when they're trying to get in this career path?
I would say, I kind of mentioned it before, but like you're not just doing a wacky voice, you're acting. Especially now that has become like so ingrained in the craft. Like and it was always the case, but it's like, I feel like it's especially the case now that everything has gone into this more naturalistic, sometimes mumblecore state. You have to be a good actor. Can you interpret copy? Can you play, by copy I mean like a script? Like, can you work with the copy? Can you understand and internalize a character's motivations? Oftentimes in voiceover, you're not getting a lot of time sitting around and talking about the character. It's not like, you know, you're spending a lot of time workshopping it. You know, you just have to kind of jump in and dive, and a lot of it ends up being cold reading as well. There are some games I've worked on where I've had the script ahead of time, but unless, again, unless it's performance capture, the odds that you're getting the script ahead of time are lower.
Yeah.
The odds are just lower because they could also be finalizing that script an hour before your session. Or it's, you know, for instance, with Dragon Age, it's in a particular piece of software that, you know, they're not going to send you literally the entire script, you know, before you do a session. There's a lot. I rarely see all my lines ahead of time. So being able to just look at it, read it, like look at it, understand what's going on and read the line and then read it a second time is a key part of everything. If you want to get used to, I'm sorry, I keep adjusting my headphones. You know what's it's kind of just a sidebar. I'm so used to having headphones where I can kind of hear myself a little bit as I'm speaking. That when I can't hear myself super well when I'm speaking, I have to do this because I'm so used to when I'm at a microphone and I'm speaking while having headphones on to being able to self-monitor, but that's not how this system works. So I'm like, but I mean, I might be able to. I wonder if I could theoretically send computer audio through to here and do it like that. I'd give it a shot one day. But yeah, it's a part of the process. So I feel like one of the best things that I can recommend for people is, you know, study up on acting, like the actual craft of it. You don't have to have a full degree in acting. You know, if that's something you're really interested in doing, that's something you want to pursue, then that's cool, but it's not necessary. But have a baseline understanding of acting, take some classes, do what you need to do, work with directors, get used to different directing styles, get used to getting feedback and adjusting based off of all of that, but also get used to reading things. So even if it's like, I have the Wikipedia article for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse open right now because I was checking the date of when it released. Reading out loud is actually really good because it teaches you how to read out loud things that you perhaps haven't read for the first time and say them. And by the way, all of us trip up. There was a line once where for whatever reason, like it took me at least 10 takes to get through it because those words were not coming out of my mouth. Those words were not coming out of my mouth. And sometimes your characters say really crazy technical stuff and you're just like, bro, I don't understand this. Like, what?
Why?
Excuse me? Just like, oh, and especially when it's like, you know, sci-fi mumbo jumbo, like you think about Star Trek, for instance, and you're just like, you don't know what that means either. Yeah. You're just like, you know, something flux capacitor. And you're just like, that means nothing. That means literally nothing. But, you know, getting used to reading out loud, getting used to, you know, going Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a 2018 computer animated superhero film featuring the Marvel Comics characters Mighter Morales. Mighter Morales. You just getting used to doing that out loud and reading out loud will make it a lot easier for you to get through lines in the booth. Because again, I cannot stress this enough, you will not always have your script ahead of time, especially not in video games. Animation, it's been my experience that I've had my script early enough in animation that I can at least read it. But video games, don't count on it.
Yeah.
Don't count on it.
Yeah, but I've heard that a lot about like not getting scripts. There's definitely not getting scripts at a time. It's on the spot. You get the scripts and you have to go with that. There
have been times too where like I've not known what they were bringing me in for.
Oh yeah.
Like they're just like, you're coming in and doing this thing. And I'm like, okay. And then I get in the booth and they're like, this is the character we want you to play. And you're like, okay. And, you know, just read some lines as this character. Okay. This is what I'm thinking. Yeah, we like that. Let's go.
Okay.
Like maybe we're going to play you a quick vocal ref of something that was on your demo or something you've done in the past, or maybe the Japanese or something like that. So you have an understanding of what the starting position for this is. Give it a shot. Just read some lines. It will literally be read some lines. And sometimes you have your first line there and then like your next line is like down the page a little bit. So you just start reading literally everything. On the page, you will read other characters' lines as a way of just establishing what this character's baseline tone is like.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's wacky. It's a wacky world. And I love it.
That's wonderful.
I love it.
That's wonderful. I just want to say just in the end, like, thank you so much for taking this time for talking to me
Oh, it's
about
my
all of this.
pleasure.
It's been so cool listening to you about all the stories. I love that, the everything about, being part of these games and this process of voice acting itself is just so cool to listen to, and just I love it. So thank you so much for taking the time. I know it just
Oh, my
I went
pleasure.
overboard with the time, but like just
Oh, it's fine.
I
It's
just
fine. This happens every time because I don't shut up. I don't shut up. Like I said, it's ADHD. I go on tangents. It's great.
I don't think. Well, to be honest, those were really not so tangents. I feel like those were really some extra depth in stories, and that's something that I just wanted to have. Like, it's wonderful. I just love that.
Oh,
And so,
thank
I'm just
you.
excited for. I know Stray Gods is coming up next, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yes, I got
And
Stray Gods and Goodbye Volcano
Goodbye
High.
Volcano High. Yeah,
Both. I think those are next on the calendar as far as
yeah.
stuff that's coming out.
Yeah,
So.
they're both, I believe, are coming on August, and I'm like, oh, this is
Mhm.
so cool. They both are coming, and I love the Stray Gods because there's some really amazing voice actors in there. So I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah,
god, I
yeah. It's a
want to
stacked
talk to
cast
all of
too.
them. Like, it's so
Oh
crazy.
boy, it's a
It's
stacked
a
cast.
stacked
It's
one.
very exciting to
And
work
I
on. It
played
was
the
a very
demo.
exciting
I
project.
Yeah, I played the demo. It was very fun. I was like, wow, this is so cool. This is
Yeah,
like,
I wasn't in the demo, right? It just kind of covered some of the earlier stuff in the
yeah, it
game.
was some of the earlier stuff in the game. So
Yeah.
I
Ooh,
just
it's very fun. I'm very excited to see everyone's reaction to my character in it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Very
I was like,
excited.
okay, you are in the game. I was like, oh, that's so cool, because I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you are also in the game at the same time. I was like,
And
oh
you're in the game,
gosh,
and you're in the game. So many people.
so many people.
It's a good cast of
It's
actors.
a good
I
cast.
saw Anthony. This is the geekiest thing. When I saw Anthony Rapp was in the cast, I was like, bro, you got Anthony Rapp. Between him and Merle Dandridge, I think those are the two people in the cast who have actually been on Broadway.
Hmm.
There could be another person, and it's slipping my mind, but those are the two people where I was just like, oh, I've listened to you guys on original Broadway cast albums. Like that's okay. No pressure. Uh,
It's insane. Like, there's actors that
yeah.
I know Troy Baker's there, and I know Laura and Rahul Kohli is like, Rahul Kohli, what is he
Mhm.
doing? And so it was so
I know.
crazy. I was like, why, who are these? What, how are these guys? Oh, what? I was so crazy when I got to know like these people are in there, and like they're gonna sing, and so it was so
Mhm.
cool. And I was like, this is. I just want to try this game out, and so I tried the demo. I was like, this is it. This is like my kind of a game, because I like
Oh
games
yeah.
like Life is Strange and some of these
Mhm.
different kind of games, just completely story based, and so very less gameplay mechanics. So love it.
It was such a passion project for Dave and Liam and Austin Wintory who did the
Austin
music.
Wintory, yeah,
So, getting to see it at this point where it's like about to come out is so I'm so happy for them. I'm so
yeah.
happy for them.
Me too, and I'm excited. But
Mhm.
yes, in the end, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for
Thank
any
you.
other projects that's coming up as well that you might be working on, that
Hmm.
you're gonna be working on. So just
Well,
excited for the
technically,
future.
there's something I can't talk about yet that comes out tomorrow, but I can't
Oh,
talk about it yet. Yeah, so
that's so
this is
painful.
tomorrow as of to date it for people because I don't know when this is going to come out. This is tomorrow as in July 6th for me.
Yeah.
So can't talk about it yet, but
And
yeah, that's a thing. By the time this drops, I'm sure we'll be able to openly say what it is.
oh yeah, I
But
think so.
yeah, I think I believe out of everything, that's the next thing, unless they're about to hit me with something else that's just like, surprise, this game came out, and I'll be like, what? Why? Like, hello.
Oh gosh.
But for now, those are it's that secret little thing, and then Stray Gods and Goodbye Volcano High.
Yeah.
Both very cool, unique projects that are coming out in the same month, which I really appreciate. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun time to play
Yeah.
so many cool games. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank
Thank you so much
you.
for the awesome conversation. It was lovely. I really thought like I'm talking to a friend. This is amazing. So thank you so much.
I'm a big old goofball. Like me. I mean, you saw me open a thing of granola bar with a knife and then have it fly all over my bedroom floor.
That was the highlight. That was
Definitely the highlight. That and Milo just yowling from over there.